Hello, everybody, and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we have episode 113. It is the day, December 19th. Today, Anthony Joshua is going to flatline Jake Paul live on Netflix. I can't see any other way. We're going to do a whole deep dive into that, into all the fights we have tomorrow. We have a ton of stuff. Andrew Tate is making his boxing debut against Chase DeMoor on top of a huge Misfits card. Lots of other stuff going on. We had a great week of fights. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford for a second. So Terence Bud Crawford announced his retirement this week, and I thought that the video package he had come out with it was great. Just thanking everyone, and I can't be upset. I mean, we've talked about it for a while. The guy is what, 39, 38? So he's definitely up there. He hasn't really shown signs of slowing down, but he just preserved himself very well, only fighting once a year these last few years. I'm not upset with this at all. I think that he's done everything there is to do in the sport. Sure, he could have gone on to become a 6 division champion and gone down to 160, but to be honest, beating Canelo was the pinnacle of his career. Anything that he did after that was just going to be kind of bonus. If he went down and beat Carlos Adames, would we really be talking about, oh my gosh, but dude, his legendary win over Carlos Adames? No. We'll be talking about the Canelo win. We'll talk about the Errol Spence win. He's done everything. 3 division undisputed champion. Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody may ever be able to replicate that, and he's done it. So, historic career. He's done everything. He's getting to leave on his own terms. He's made his money. He's in great health. He hasn't lost a single fight. He's 42-0, 5 world championships in different divisions. I mean, just a truly, truly historic career. He's a great, and I'm really, really happy for him. I would have liked to have seen them fight at 160. Had no interest in seeing him rematch Canelo, which seems like maybe they were kind of leading towards that. I'm definitely a little bit gutted for Canelo. I thought he was going to get that rematch, but I'm not mad at this at all. We know that Crawford has already been stripped by the WBC, and I believe that he has also told the WBO that he will be vacating the title. So they will do that in due course, and then the WBA, the IBF, he will soon be stripped from them as well. So this also is great for the division. This means that all these titles that Canelo's held for so long and now Crawford held, they're finally going to be freed up for all the fights to be made. Now, of course, we know that Canelo is going through surgery right now. He's not going to be able to fight for a minute. So the question is, what becomes of the current championships all held there? So we know the WBA and the WBC already have interim champions. The WBA's interim champion is Jose Armando Resendiz. He'll be upgraded. And the WBC's interim champion is, of course, Christian Billy, who I don't know if he's going to be immediately upgraded because they ordered him to fight Hamza Shiraz for that vacant title, so maybe he'll have to fight for it. I actually don't think that fight happens. What I think is going to happen is, and Billy's going to fight the number 3 ranked WBC super middleweight, and that is Lester Martinez. They just fought. They're going to do that rematch, or at least I hope that's what they do, because I think that Turki Al-Sheikh is looking to make the WBO vacant championship between number 2 and number 3, Hamza Shiraz and Diego Pacheco. He said he wants to make that fight in February. That will be for the full WBO title. Canelo's number 1. He's not going to be fighting for it. The WBA, like I said, Resendiz, interim champion. He'll probably end up defending it. I'm not entirely sure against who. Number 2 in those rankings is Bektemir Melikuziev. Maybe he gets the shot. That's a pretty good fight. And then as for the IBF, you go to there. They obviously have Oslis Iglesias as the number 1 challenger. Number 2 is vacant. And then number 3 is Canelo. Number 4 is Jaime Munguia. So maybe Jaime Munguia ends up getting that shot for the title against Oslis Iglesias. I'm not really sure. You also have Callum Simpson in those rankings, very high. Number 5. 6 is Shiraz, 7 is Pavel Siliaga, and then you get all the random, guys, IBF ranks. But, yeah, so a wide open division, lots of great undefeated contenders coming through, so many great fights to make, and yeah, I can't wait to see what fights we end up getting for these vacant titles over the next 6 months or so. All right, let's talk about it. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua. This is one of the biggest fights of the year. It's certainly a circus fight, but, man, I cannot wait. And you have to respect Jake Paul for taking this fight. I mean, the size difference is ridiculous. And now seeing AJ and how in shape he is and how locked in he is, he doesn't dislike Jake Paul, but I think that he's gotten a little bit just kind of tired of all the games and stuff this week. And he's like, nah, man, I mean, he's in fight mode. So he's like, I'm going to knock him out, So this is good to hear because we know that he's not saying, "Hey, look, I respect Jake. I can't wait to dance with him. I can't wait to fight. Get some rounds in with him." No, he's coming in treating this as a real fight, and he's saying, "I'm gonna knock him out. I'm gonna do it like I would anybody else. I'm gonna try and fuck him up." And if he goes in there, he can end this fight within the first 2 rounds. This should not go past 2 rounds. What I'm going to say is I'm going to say 3 as my prediction. I'm going to say it does not get out of the 3rd round. For my prediction of what I think is actually going to happen, I would say first round maybe. But I'll say, hands down, I do not see this going past the 3rd. It should not. Part of me, there's about a 1% chance of me that's thinking, like, what if Jake Paul really does have some master's game plan that he's figured out? He's found some huge chink in Anthony Joshua's armor, and that's why he's taking this fight. I don't know. The only way I can see him doing this is that he's insanely delusional, which he knows he is, and just wants to make a lot of money and test himself by going up against one of the toughest challenges he could possibly take. And like I said, you have to respect it. You have to respect that he's going for the absolute top of this sport, going for the former heavyweight champion, not Mike Tyson from 20 years ago, Anthony Joshua, who held this title 3 years ago. This is unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe that Jake Paul hasn't fought KSI, but he's fighting Anthony Joshua. Like, just what a world we live in. The size difference is crazy. I really am excited for this fight. I thought they've done a great job during fight week. It's built up very well. There's a little bit of tension in the air now, and we are in for a crazy, crazy night tomorrow. Whether you're a fan of AJ or Jake Paul, something bad is going to happen. AJ, Jake's been saying it's a win-win for me. It's a lose-lose for him. Either way, Jake's like, there's no pressure on me. There's pressure on him. He has to knock me out in the first round. For me, I can do whatever I need. Nobody thinks I'm going to win, which is true. But I don't know, man. I think that I personally am not a hater of Jake Paul like a lot of people are. But if you are, this is going to be the greatest hate watch of all time. And I don't think it's the end of Jake Paul. I think that he'll be back after this, but it very well could be. He could get really hurt in there. I think he'll be fine. He's a fighter. He's taking these shots, not from AJ, but he'll be good. But it is going to be a generational ass whooping. But let's talk about the undercard. My prediction, Anthony Joshua within 3 rounds. This undercard, very, very stacked. Co-main event, Alicia Baumgardner defending 3 of her titles at super featherweight. Obviously, to do 12 3-minute rounds against Layla Boudouin. I love that. I love that we're doing the 12 threes. I really don't think that there's any reason why women should not be allowed to fight the same amount of rounds as men. Sure, the 10-2s are more exciting, but they deserve the chance to fight 12 threes as well, or at least 10 threes like Amanda Serrano is doing next month. New opponent for her we'll talk about later in the show. But yeah, I don't know. Layla Boudouin is good. I've seen her fight, but I think Baumgardner is definitely a level above. Baumgardner is one of the best pound-for-pound female fighters in the world right now. Boudouin, I can't say the same. I can say she's one of the best super featherweights, but she's not on Baumgardner's level. Granted, Jennifer Miranda, we said the same thing about, and Miranda gave her a pretty good fight. So who knows? I think that these 12 3-minute rounds could very well play into Baumgardner's favor. She's a really big power puncher. She's got a pretty big knockout ratio for a women champion. So I think that she can get through this, and you could see a stoppage. No promises, but we'll see. So I definitely have her winning the fight. You've also got Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley. Very random fight. MVP has obviously done a lot of work with MMA fighters, with Jake Paul. Both these guys have fought Jake Paul, so I kind of like that they're matching them up. They're big names. Both definitely passed it. Anderson Silva, 50 years old and still fighting, and I think he's favored in this fight. He's the bigger guy. He's the overall more experienced and more skilled and more legendary fighter of the two. So I have him winning this fight. It could be a case of how, washed is, or not washed, but how old is Anderson Silva. Tyron Woodley, I feel, is honestly maybe more washed than Anderson Silva is, and that's why I have Anderson Silva winning this. When was the last time Tyron Woodley won a fight? He's on a 7-fight losing streak across combat sports, coming off of 4 years of inactivity. He hasn't won in probably close to a decade by now or something. The better part of one. So, I don't know, man. Definitely not the best run of form for Woodley, neither for Silva, but I think Silva is a pretty decent favorite in this fight, and it should be fun. Opening of the main card, you're going to have Jamal Harvey having his second pro fight. Big spotlight for him. They're putting him over multiple world championships to get him on this main card. Really short main card. You've got an 8, 12, and 2 6-rounders. So it's kind of odd, when you've got 3 10-rounders on the prelims. But anyways, I've got Jamal Harvey winning this fight. but I do think it could be tough. Kevin Cervantes, this guy's not a normal journeyman. He's 5-0 with 5 knockouts. He himself is a very good prospect, I believe, out of Colombia. So Jamal Harvey's definitely got a good test for him here. I think this guy does not have the pedigree of Harvey, but we haven't really seen him. We only saw one round of him in his pro debut, and his opponent quit on the stool after. So we haven't really got to see him, and he hasn't gotten that really good pro experience yet. So, definitely going to be a challenge for him, but I've got him winning it, no doubt. Well, maybe a little bit of doubt, but probably no doubt. On the undercard, Shernika Johnson defending her undisputed bantamweight championship against Amanda Gaia. Good fight. Gaia, the the IBO champion, and now looking to get on to all those real belts. I think Amanda Gaia is good. I think Shernika Johnson is very good. I think that she's probably a top 10 pound for pound fighter, or at least breaking into that. I've got her winning this fight. I don't know if she does it inside the distance, but it's possible. Her last 2 wins have come inside the distance against Nina Hughes and Sharetta Metcalf, where she, conquered all these titles. So, good fight there. But I've got Johnson winning it. Caroline Dubois facing Camila Panata. Again, going to be a good favorite, as is Yokasta Valle against Yadira Bustillos. These are just MVP debuts and WBC title defenses for both these women. Both great, great fighters, and hope they put on showcase performances to get big fights next year in 2026. And then you've also got Avius Griffin back against Justin Cardona. Obviously coming off his first loss. Cardona, I believe, is like 10-1, so not a bad fight for him. And then Keno Marley, the pro debut of Keno Marley, taking on Diarra Davis Jr. So hopefully he looks good. So 9-fight card, good fights. MVP has really stepped up the promotional game in the last year or two, where I now consider them to be sitting at that top table. I mean, just compare it to somebody you would say is one of the top promoters, like even Boxer. MVP is without a doubt putting on better shows than Boxer and doing that more often. So, I don't know. I mean, you can even argue about Golden Boy and Top Rank. MVP puts on more shows than they do right now. And those shows are maybe better. So, I don't know. But anyways, that is Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua. It's all going to go down tonight. It's going to be absurd. The face-offs have been crazy. The talk is over. The face-offs are over. It's just fight time. So, let's do it. Let's talk about what else we got coming up this weekend. A lot of good stuff. You got Misfits Mania in Dubai. Andrew Tate, everyone's favorite or least favorite person. I personally don't really like him, but he is making his Misfits debut against Chase DeMoor. Really excited to see this card. Lots of good fights. And as for the fight itself, look, I actually really love Chase DeMoor. I think he's funny. I don't think he's a very good boxer, but I like his personality and his promotional game. I do not think he wins this fight. He's at a size advantage, but he's been dragged down with the weight cut. I don't know what these guys are going to actually come in at, but we'll find out soon enough. But I think Andrew Tate will win this fight. He has to have a lot of inactivity. He hasn't fought in like years. I think somebody says the last fight was like 2020, and that wasn't even in boxing, where Chase DeMoor has been very active, probably the most active guy on Misfits roster. So there is a little bit of a worry there, but I think Andrew Tate definitely has far more experience and pedigree, even if he is the older and less active fighter. I've got him winning this fight. I'd be pretty surprised if he does it. And I honestly think he'll probably do it inside the distance. Co-main event, you're going to have Tony Ferguson back in action. He's going to be fighting Warren Spencer. Again, you got to favor Tony Ferguson. He actually didn't overly impress me against Salt Poppy. He just had a good moment, and then it was an early stoppage, so I hope he can look good. He definitely should be able to beat Warren Spencer at least. This is a guy that Dylan Dennis choked out in 15 seconds, and he's a pretty good, much better boxer than he is MMA fighter, but we'll see. Excited to see him back. And then you've got guys like great undercard fights. Dean the Great fighting Amato Vargas. That's a big, big step up for Dean to fight a pro. And I don't know if he wins it. That's a really good fight. I want to get behind Dean. I'm going to be rooting for Dean. But I would not be surprised at all if Amato Vargas takes this one. He's 13-0. That's not bad. And then you got Niraj Goyat fighting Anthony Taylor, MVP versus Misfits. This is obviously meant to be Niraj versus Slim and AT versus Dylan Dennis. Both Dylan Dennis and Slim got injured. So now it's AT versus Niraj, which is still a great, great fight. I'm looking forward to that one. I want to get behind AT again. It's just that Niraj Goyat is an actual pro fighter, so I don't know if he can do it. And then you've got Nick LMAO versus Ben Williams. That's a great Misfits fight. Really, really 50-50 fight. That one could be fight of the night. It'll be great. Ty Emery versus Pearl Gonzalez for a Misfits middleweight championship. These are both like combat sports fighters from a lot of different disciplines, MMA, BKFC, whatever. Now coming into boxing for a Misfits title. I like it. And you've also got Carla Jade defending her lightweight championship against Taylor Starling, who's one of the best fighters in BKFC right now on the women's side. So that's a really good test for her. Again, this is boxing, so maybe Carla Jade will have the advantage. I don't know, but she could also lose this fight, very much so, because Taylor Starling is the better fighter. And then you've got the pro fights they have on this card. You got Amir Anderson fighting Joe Laws. Really fun build-up. Anderson, fantastic prospect. This is his first actual test as a pro, and I expect that he's going to get through it with fair ease. I'm not expecting too much from Joe Laws in terms of Joe Laws is good, but he's just kind of a wild man, and he's been a good, fighter to have on cards in the UK. A good test for you guys. Everyone remembers his fight with Stephen McKenna and how great that was over its 3 rounds it happened. So you got another opportunity for a fun fight here. You also got Dynamite David Lopez making his Misfits debut, fighting Luis Garcia, and these are both for the MF Pro Championships in their weight division. So some good prospects, and yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun and get a lot of opportunity for fun fights. A lot of these fights could steal the show, and you got all good stuff headlined by Andrew Tate, Jason DeMoor, which really is. I was looking at the pictures they have of the press and was like, man, they got Andrew Tate and Tony Ferguson now in Misfits. Like, we thought KSI was the only big superstar they were going to have. Now they got, actually other ones. I am curious what happens with Andrew Tate once he wins his fight. They keeping him around. He can't fight on DAZN. DAZN doesn't want him. Is Misfits deal with DAZN over? Are they going to make Andrew Tate versus KSI versus Darren Till? What's he going to kind of do? How often is he going to fight? Are they going to keep up this whole he's the CEO charade? I don't know. Lots of questions get answered, but it should be a really, really fun card in Dubai tomorrow. All right, now talking about our other events we have this weekend. Over in Leeds, England, you're going to have Cam Simpson defending his British, Commonwealth, and EBU European 168 titles against Troy Williamson for the final boxer show of the year on BBC. Obviously, Williamson had a great win over Mark Dickinson earlier this year. Looked good in that for the English title, and then everyone's like, well, get him for the British. Just what happens when you win an English title in impressive fashion. Everyone should go fight for the British. And while I have no issue with it normally, I just feel like Cam Simpson is honestly beyond British level at this point. I would like to see him go on and fight for a more, not a world title or something yet, but, fight a world level opponent, leave the European scene a bit behind, maybe get in a fight in America, but this is still a good opportunity for him to stay active. This is his 4th 12-round fight of the year, so you do have to respect the activity he's having and getting to headline 3 of those shows. So yeah, Cam Simpson, I think he's going to do the job. I think he'll probably win this inside the distance, judging on how all 3 of his last fights have come inside the distance, I believe, all those wins. So yeah, I think that he should be able to do a pretty good number on Williamson. Williamson's tough. He's game. He's on a good stretch, but yeah, I think Simpson wins this fight. Unfortunately, this undercard did take a few hits. Both Blair Cobbs and Frankie Stringer are off the card. It was obviously meant to be Blair Cobbs versus Elliot Whale. Really random, but fun fight. And then it was also meant to be Frankie Stringer versus Levi Giles, which is a good step up for him. So they're both now ill or injured and off the card. So it's now going to be Elliot Whale. He's going to be fighting Ashley Eels. I'm not sure if this is over 8 or 10 rounds. Eels is 11-1. He was meant to fight on the undercard against Jermaine Osborne Edwards. So, still a decent fight. Fighting another prospect, but it's not Blair Cobbs. It wasn't not as much of a 50-50, I guess you could say, as we were hoping. Sam Hickey has now been upgraded to the main card. And then on the prelims, on the early prelims, which aren't even going to be broadcast, Levi Giles will now be in fighting a random journeyman. So definitely took a big hit. We got 6 fights in total that'll be broadcast on that card. This card really could not take any big hits, and it did, because you only had 3 actual fights on the card, and now you're really only going to have 2, I guess, and even that second one is not a great fight. So it is what it is. Not a great run of form for Boxer on BBC. Just these cards are not as good as they once were, but they're doing their best. It's whatever. Moving on from there, 2 cards in Africa this week. 2 boxing cards. You've got Lawrence Okoli fighting Ebenezer Tate, which we talked about before. It's just such a dumb fight. I mean, Lawrence Okoli's number 1 with the WBC, and he's fighting Ebenezer Tate, and it's ridiculous, but he was supposed to be on this card. We knew it was never going to be a big opponent. It is what it is. We'll take it. He'll blow him out in a few rounds, whatever. I just want to see real fights from here on. And then you got Tony Yoka in the co-main event fighting Patrick Corte. Again, a good heavyweight fighting a mediocre heavyweight. Should have just been Okoli versus Yoka, if I'm being honest. But, they never want to match up the guys. And also, they don't have the budget for that on this show to put them in, because they're would want a lot more money to fight each other. So you do what you can. And then on the undercard as well, you have Elvis Ahorga, who fought both Calum Simpson and Tyler Denny this year on boxer shows and lost both of them. He's going to be fighting Harley Ben over 8 rounds. Harley Ben, of course, brother of Conor Ben, who's 9-2. Has losses to Faison Anwar, who's a pretty good fighter who fights on the IBA cards, and then also lost he got stopped in that fight actually, and also lost to a journeyman in 2019. So, how old is he? It doesn't say on here, but he's been fighting since 2017. I didn't realize he's been a pro for that long. But anyways, that is on that card. So some interesting fights, I guess you could say. The better card in Africa, if we're being honest, is Craig Richards, Dan Aziz. And I don't know a lot of these guys, but I think they're well matched from the looks of it. Obviously, Craig Richards, Dan Aziz, great fight, British fight for the light heavyweight division in Africa and Ghana. I really like it. I would have to favor Craig Richards. Again, he's just been had the better form recently. Dan Aziz did not have a great 2024. I actually feel for him because I thought that he beat Louis Edmondson and then just got, robbed of that decision, which sucks. But I think Craig Richards coming off a good win over Paddy McCrory. Before that, it was a loss to Willie Hutchinson. So we'll see. This really could be either man's fight, but I am favoring Craig Richards to get the job done. I think he's just better than Dan Aziz right now. But on the undercard, you're going to have Nishant Dev back. You're going to have Leo Atang making his third pro fight. Obviously, their big heavyweight prospect. He's going to be fighting Babu Yusuf, who's 3-0, so 2 undefeated heavyweights fighting. That's pretty good. You're also going to have Theophilus Alati fighting J.R. Rokinel, which is 12-round WBO Global Super Flyweight Championship. That's a real fight there. You got Ibrahima Diallo versus Samson Segbedzi for the IBF International Super Welterweight Championship. A lot of 8-round fights, some of which have African titles on the line. An interesting one, Jerry Larty versus Jesse Brandon. Both undefeated guys fighting in an 8-round super lightweight fight. Jesse Brandon is British. He's fought on some shows I've seen, so kind of a random fight to put 2 undefeated guys against each other. In fact, they have another one, Seth Gima versus Jonathan Tate. There's 8 rounds at 175. I actually think that one may be pretty high up on the card. It's had a pretty fun build-up I've seen in Ghana. So a lot of good fights on this event. A lot of undefeated versus undefeated, actually. These are all really well-matched fights. I'm excited for it. This should be a good one. And cool to see boxing in Africa. Salida Promotions will also have their last event of the year, Olivia Curry versus K. Scott 2. It was a unified championship between WBC and WBA middleweight champions. Actually, they're both vacant, maybe. I'm not really sure. But anyways, they had a fight earlier this year. Great fight. One of the best women's fights of 2025. So love to see they're running it back so quickly. And we'll see who can actually get the decision this time. It was a draw in the first fight. And then you also have Tony Harrison. He's back fighting Brian Damian Chavez. He had a close fight last time with Edward Ulloa Diaz, so hopefully he can, get a more confident win. The guy's fighting 15-7. He's won 1 fight of his last 6, so that's not great. And you got Bryce Taylor on that card. Okay. BKFC's final card of the year. They're fighting out of Mohegan Sun, Parker Porter versus late replacement Anthony Garrett. So maybe that'll be fun. I think 11 fights on that card to close out BKFC for 2025. And now let's talk about the fights we already had this week. So much to talk about. This episode has been honestly a crazy combat sports weekend. We're not even going to talk about the PFL Africa event or the WBC Grand Prix finals because I'm not watching those, but there's just too much to watch. I mean, that just shows you how jam-packed this weekend is. There's 14 big events across all the different, major boxing and MMA and stuff. So let's talk about what we've already had. On Wednesday, we had 3 fight cards, 1 on Thursday. But on the Wednesday fights, you had the Japanese world title triple header, Seiya Tsutsumi beating Nonito Donaire by unanimous split decision, actually, excuse me. I thought it was a close fight. I had Tsutsumi winning 116-112, so I actually thought that he was, once he got into the second half, I thought he took over. I had Donaire far up in the first half of the fight. I thought Tsutsumi just didn't have a quick start. Donaire was looking much faster and stronger and was hurting. Tsutsumi, and I was blown away. I was like, man, Donaire's 41, 42, and he's still putting out performances like this? This is incredible. And then, just kind of slowed down. Tsutsumi figured out his game plan and then took control of the fight from there. So definitely the right decision, but man, that was a great fight. I was really impressed by Donaire. I thought he was going to get blown out, but he showed, I may be old, but I'm still a top bantamweight. So I was really impressed by that. Tsutsumi saying he wants to fight Kazuto Ioka next on the Inoue Nakatani undercard. I would love to see that. Unfortunately, I think he's going to have to defend it against Antonio Vargas, who is obviously champion, made champion in recess after Tsutsumi was champion in recess, made champion. So confusing. But Vargas does deserve that shot, and then we can get the Ioka fight next year still. I would love to see that one because Tsutsumi definitely beats Anthony Vargas. Or is it Antonio Vargas? I can't remember. Anyways, on the undercard, wasn't able to watch the fights, couldn't find them anywhere, but Kaosuke Takami lost to Rene Santiago in the Unified Light Flyweight Championship. Rene Santiago has been on a great run of form. Obviously he beat Shokichi Iwata for the title earlier this year. First defensive event, he's fighting a new champion as well, who's a big underdog. It's huge size difference where he's at a disadvantage, and he beats him. So, love that for him. Again, I didn't see the fight, but I think he won by split decision. So I think it was close, but Santiago, the better fighter, and he's now unified light flyweight champion with the WBA and WBO. So, love that for him. You had Anthony Olaskuaga get a huge knockout on the undercard over Takuku Ohara to retain his WBO flyweight championship. He's had a good year, 3 wins. Hopefully he unifies with Ricardo Sandoval next year in California. I think that makes all the sense in the world. Just such a big fight to do there. So Seijo Yuriakui get a knockout on the undercard in his return fight. So good card in Japan. Just wish I wouldn't have been able to watch it. Another one, Tszyu getting his comeback win over Anthony Velasquez. Another fight we didn't have a broadcast for here in the United States. I watched the highlights for him and Sam Goodman's fights. I thought they both looked good. These are both their comeback fights off of losses and world title fights. Tszyu won every round, it seemed, on the scorecards. All 3 cards were 100-90, so very confident win for him. From the highlights I saw, I thought he looked decent. Obviously would have liked to have seen him get Velasquez out of there, but he seemed to be a little bit more. Velasquez was tough, and Tszyu was just taking his time and being patient. Doesn't want to get caught by anything or punch himself out. That's kind of what he did versus Fundora. So, good game plan for him. I don't really know where he goes from here because I feel like he's got to take a long break from world level. I thought he was going to take an actual break after this. He just doesn't want to take breaks. He's too active. If you're going to stay active, fine, but let's not get back to world level yet because he just can't really compete with those guys at the elite level right now. As for Sam Goodman, the scorecard's 99-91 and then 2-190, so another very confident win for him over Tyler Blizzard, who was undefeated. So he had a good opponent as well. They both took O's, and so curious what he does next. He's at featherweight now. Good division, lots of good fights for him. He had a great performance against Nick Ball. He was just second best. So good opportunities there. You also had on Wednesday a card in the UK, Giorgio Vizioli getting his first 10-round headliner win over Joe Howarth. I had that fight 98-92 in favor of Vizioli. Thought he looked great. Had some issues here and there. Not perfect performance, but still a very, very much a top prospect. And had his first real genuine win as a pro here, I believe in his 10th professional fight. So, love to see that. Co-main event was John Hedges at El Zorro. I actually thought that was a little bit closer than other people had it, but Hedges gets the win, probably deserved, and some people are calling for him to fight Pat Brown. I'm not overly impressed with Hedges. I think he's good. He wins the fights, but I think he's really boring. And you put him in there with Pat Brown, I think Pat Brown is just going to decimate him. But that would be a really good test for Brown. So maybe they do that next to fight for the English before Brown goes for the British. I would not be mad at all if that's the next fight. Even though that would kind of hurt Brown's Hedges' trajectory, it is kind of what you do now is have them fight for the English. Undercard, a lot of good fighters, on it. But the standout ones, Taylor Bevan got himself another stoppage. Connor Mitchell had a great debut, getting a second-round stoppage. I thought he looked good. TMA Ayton, yet another KO win. Great KO this time in the 3rd round. She is a very, very good prospect. Easily the best prospect in women's boxing, you would have to think, besides maybe Tam Bolt. Excuse me. She's looking awesome. Adam Maka as well had his 2nd-round stoppage, so they're both 100% knockout rates. And then other wins for Lely Buttigieg. He looked good. William Carla also had a stoppage win, as she didn't have a stoppage win with Maisie Rose Courtney, another 6-round win. Hopefully she can get back into real fights. But good midweek card for them just to keep the roster active. I liked it. They also had a new broadcast they were kind of doing because this was kind of their own show, not like a DAZN full-on broadcast. They just added this onto their deal. They had their own Matchroom kind of graphics and stuff, and I thought it looked pretty good. So we'll see. Maybe they'll use that setup again, kind of like how MVP has their own graphics they use. I don't know. And then the other card you had last night, Pro Box TV, their final event of the year. Great card. Main event, Ramon Cardenas turning off Eric Robles in the 5th round with a huge knockout. He already had a knockdown in the 3rd round, which was also a great one. This one, even better, stops Robles for good. Great performance. He's back at 122, back in, top 10. Very good win over a solid opponent. So he's now going to have probably a good next year. I hope they get him a big fight. There's word he could have fought Junto Nakatani on this December 27th card. Before that ended up being Sebastian Hernandez. But, he's going to have a lot of good opportunities from that. Great performance he turned in versus Inoue. And I thought that he looked pretty good here. Co-main event, you had Herbert Conceição Sosa beating Elias Espadas over 10 rounds for a unanimous decision win. Pretty much won every round. I gave him every round. I thought he looked awesome. He's a really good pro coming through who is a great amateur. And, Elias Espadas, he gave really tough fights to Sadruddin Akhmedov this year. He drew with him. And then Callum Walsh, there was a cut that stopped that from going on, but he was giving him a bit of a tough fight. And Conceição came in here, 10th fight as a pro, and just completely dominates him. And the commentator called like a Pez dispenser shot, where he's just uppercutting him, and his head is just facing the ceiling every time, like 5 in a row. So he's really, really impressive. You also had Joshon James, Jojandler Martinez, great 8-round fight won by Joshon James. A lot of knockdowns, including a double knockdown. And I believe the 3rd round, which I couldn't believe, it was a real, legit double knockdown. They both threw punches at the same time that landed, and they both went down from it. You never, ever see that. James far less hurt by it and capitalized and won the 8-round fight off that. But, dude, that was insane. One of the moments of the year. Speaking of moments of the year, Ramon Cardenas, huge knockout, as did Marlon Harrington. Underdog knocks out the undefeated Brian Blanco at the end of a tough round for him. Knocks him out in the 1st round, like out cold. Knockout of the year contender. Brilliant performance. Mike Juan Williams getting a comeback as well. He made his opponent quit on the stool after the 4th. And then Kenyon Valle also get a 1st round stoppage victory. So a great closing of the year for Pro Box TV. I love Pro Box. I thought it was one of their best shows of the year. Lots of stoppages. And yeah, on to a great 2026. They announced their first show of the new year is going to be headlined by Brian Flores starring Castillo, I believe at 140, and that's on January 30th in Maryland. So good 2026 coming up for them. Let's talk about some other news. It was confirmed that Zurdo Ramirez, Robin Safar is no longer happening on January 16th. And now Zurdo is going to focus on the Benavidez fight in May. Then I saw another report later that said it could be rescheduled to the February 21st Barrios Garcia undercard. I don't believe that yet. I don't know if that card is meant to be a Riyadh Season 1 or if it's meant to be a PBC card or a Golden Boy. I'm really not sure. But I don't think that Zurdo Safar is happening at all. I don't understand why you would not have it happen in January, but then push it to February where you're less than 3 months out from the Benavidez fight. That just doesn't make sense to me. However, I did see that if Safar is not getting the Zurdo fight, he'll probably get a good fight against another top 10 guy, and likely in like an eliminator. So we'll see. Maybe he will still get a big fight, but Zurdo looking to be fully systems ahead for Benavidez in May, and I'm not mad about it. Apparently, Sky Sports is negotiating deals with both Zuffa Boxing and MVP. Obviously, Sky Sports out of boxing right now after the Boxer deal ended. You would think that they would want to stay in. Queensberry's not renewing with them, or Queensberry's not going to be on there. They're with DAZN. Just started a multi-year deal. Matchroom is likely going to renew with DAZN. They really want to. They've got a great relationship. They'll probably stay together. And then Boxer just left, and they don't want Boxer back. So you want to bring in some international stuff. You've got Zuffa and MVP, two of the newest promotions, the two new promotions who are really surging. Zuffa hasn't even started yet, but you know they're going to be big. And MVP is having tremendous success. They don't have a real rights deal. I mean, every Netflix event is a one-off thing. They have a deal with DAZN for the prospect shows. Everything else, I think, is just on a case-by-case basis. So if they could get a UK deal, it would be good in the sense that they could put on shows in the UK, because you got so many good UK fighters on your roster, like Caroline Dubois and Savannah Marshall and Ellie Scotney and Terry Harper and Ebony Bridges, and there's more I'm forgetting. They've got a lot of UK British fighters, Chantel Cameron, Ramla Ali, so many British fighters that they could really have a strong UK schedule for. So I have no issue with them going into the UK. I've said it for a year or two now. I do believe MVP will be having an event in the UK soon enough. They're going to go international. I really do think they are. But until then, I think that a Sky Sports deal would not be a bad idea for them to negotiate. Zuffa Boxing, particularly, is launching on Paramount Plus, not yet in the UK. So if they can get that down and get an international deal in Sky Sports where they can broadcast there, that would be awesome. They may get the Sky Paramount deal for the entire world, which would be great to have it all in one place. But if they do decide to go the Sky Sports route, I wouldn't be mad. Maybe that frees them up to do an event in the UK. Alex Pereira says the White House card is a no-go for him. No reason why. Maybe this is the UFC telling him that he's not going to be fighting on it, which would kind of suck because I believe that he deserves to fight on it. He's the biggest star they have. I don't understand why you wouldn't put him on the card. I get, Conor McGregor, John Jones are bigger stars overall, but he's your best current star, your biggest current star, and I wouldn't rule him out for that, especially if you could do the fight with John Jones. Maybe they are going to do that, just not on the White House because, like Dana said, they can't trust to put John Jones on that card. We'll see what they end up deciding to do with the event, but yeah, definitely is a little bit odd to me that he wouldn't be on the card. It was also announced that Hayato Tsutsumi has reportedly sustained an orbital fracture in sparring for his fight with Jazzy Dickens next week, and thus he is out of the fight on December 27th for the WBA 130 title. Very, very disappointing. I really wanted to see that fight. That was honestly the best fight of that card, besides maybe Nakatani versus Hernandez. But even then, Nakatani's a big favorite. Tsutsumi was favored, but still, that was one of the best fights on the undercard, and I'm really disappointed we're not going to get it anymore. I don't think they're going to get a new opponent for Dickens because the whole theme is around the Japanese fighters. I don't think that if Tsutsumi was in, or if Dickens was out and Tsutsumi was still fighting, they'd find another opponent for him. I don't know if they'll do that with Dickens. I did see that Oshaki Foster called out Jazzy Dickens to a unification. That's a good fight. You could have them unify while Navarrete and Nunes are unifying. Then you've only got two champions in the division you can fight for undisputed. So, yeah, Oshaki Foster, after that win over Stephen Fulton's going to have a lot of very big opportunities next year, and hopefully he can get one of them. Another option I saw somebody throw was Anthony Kakache. He's a great 130-pounder who doesn't have a title right now. He could fight Jazzy Dickens in the UK. That makes a lot of sense. It was also announced that Erica Cruz is popped for PEDs. She's out of the Serrano rematch, which really sucks because that was going to be a great fight. And now Reina Tellez, 13-0-1, is going to be the replacement. Tellez, I don't think has ever fought for a world title before. And then she's fighting one of the greatest, if not the greatest, female fighters in the world. Yeah, I don't think that's going to go well for her. 10 3-minute rounds. Props to her for stepping in. I wish they could have gotten someone better, but, we're just about 2 weeks out from that, so it is what it is. We'll take what we can get, and yeah, Serrano definitely gonna win that fight now. Not as maybe Taz will show something, but I don't think it's gonna be very competitive. BKFC finally announced Knucklemania 6, the main 3 fights, and they're pretty good. You got Ben Rothwell, Andrei Arlovsky for the heavyweight title. I was hoping to see Rothwell fight Leonardo Perdomo, but I can't complain. This is a much bigger fight, and it's still gonna be just as competitive, if not more so. You got Lorenzo Hunt, Yoel Romero. Great co-main event. Not for a title. This is a catchweight fight. Probably like 205 or something like that. Two big boys. Yoel Romero has thunder in his hands, as does Lorenzo Hunt. He's one of the best fighters in BKFC. So this is a great matchup. I love it. And then we're also going to have Ben Botter and Tony Soto rematching. They had a great fight last summer. And, neither of them are going to be fighting for this lightweight title. So just going to match them up. Lightweight is one of the best divisions BKFC has, so 3 great fights at the top of the Knucklemania bill. I was hoping we'd see Mike Perry or someone like that headline the card in a really big fight, but it's okay. I like the idea of Knucklemania maybe not being a pay-per-view and just being all these really good core BKFC fights, and yeah, it looks like we're going to have some good shows on that event. Apparently, Kyle Baralho and Rainier de Ritter's in the works for UFC 326. That's also a great fight. These are the two guys that were in title eliminator fights, or potential title eliminator fights earlier this year, and then both came up short. I think it's a good matchup. RDR was on a surge and then just looked terrible against Brendan Allen. And then Kaio looked good, but was just second best against Nasruddin Imavov. Winner of this will stay in that top 5, top 6, and get another good fight off the win. Get another good fight off the win of this. So I like it. We'll see if it does end up getting added, but I think it will. Seem like we're going to get some pretty good fights on that Vegas card in March. The Ring Magazine has removed Janabek Connolly from their middleweight rankings. I don't blame them. I know they do this. They did it with Jaime Munguia, removing the fighters who fail VADA tests and stuff from the rankings. I don't necessarily fully agree with it because I still think that they're active fighters in the division, but it does kind of send a message. So Adames is now their number one fighter, and that also means that Janibek can't fight for that Ring Magazine title for a bit. He's got to work his way back up the rankings, I guess, and re-enter them. So, I mean, obviously, he gets back, he becomes clean, and then he fights one guy, he'll be number one again. But, yeah, definitely a bad year for Janibek, and I'm curious when he'll be able to make his return and if he's going to be stripped of those titles. It's seeming like he likely could. Movlid Kebulaev, we just talked about PEDs. PFL featherweight tournament winner this year, got popped for PEDs and got disqualified from the tournament after winning it. So he's no longer the champion of that tournament. I don't know what that means. I don't know if Jesus Pinedo, who's going to be fighting February 7th, we found out. I don't know if that means that he is now the champion because he lost that championship fight. I don't know what it means, but Kebulaev, and I don't know if he got disqualified from that fight or just from the tournament. I don't really know. We'll see if he gets dropped from the organization as a whole, and because he was probably going to get an actual title shot after that, in this new revamped PFL that they're doing. He was probably going to be one of those guys to go in and just right into a title fight. So, not anymore. But yeah, really, really interesting stuff there. Javier Herrera versus Ricardo Nunes has been added to January 10th in Germany. That was obviously ordered for the WBC Interim Lightweight Championship. Then Oshaki Foster and Stephen Fulton fought for it. Foster vacated that, and now immediately that fight is back on for it, as it should be. I actually don't like the fight in terms of it being for a title eliminator, an interim championship. Herrera is definitely going to beat him, and then Herrera is going to be mandatory to Shakur all of a sudden. I do think Herrera is very good. It's just a little bit out of nowhere he's getting to be an interim champion. I don't know if he's really earned that yet, but anyways. Yeah, good to see that they're adding more fights to that Germany card because it's looking a little bit bare. They also said that Roman Fury is going to be on the card, as is Melvi Tiafak, who is MVP's German heavyweight debutant from earlier this year. And now this is his second pro fight, I think. Maybe it's his third, I'm not sure. But, yeah, he looked really good in the fight that I saw him in. So excited to see him back on there. And then lastly, Rohan Polanco versus Christian Gomez got announced as the co-main event for the Zayas Barao undercard in Puerto Rico on January 31st, as well as Giovanni Santillan and Yuri Cedeno on the undercard. So some good fighters being added. It seems like it's going to be a straight-up top-rank event. No word on broadcaster yet. Maybe they're trying to get one figured out for this event. But, yeah, I mean, you're getting four, probably likely 10 or one 12-round unified championship and three 10-round fights on the undercard. You've got a decent card there. And this is and they're all top-ranked fighters. Plus, I think Juanma Lopez is fighting, so they need to get a broadcast figured out. I don't know what's going on. I really hope it's not just on Top Rank Classics on Tubi. Yeah, I can't believe Top Rank still doesn't have a TV deal. But anyways, that's everything I have for today's episode. Tonight is the night. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua. It all goes down. I may end up doing a short episode tomorrow morning just to talk about today's fight, what happened and break it down. But absolute mega event tonight. I love the Netflix mega events. There's always something. They really, big fight feels. It's a thing. And we have big fight feels this week. It's going to be huge. Jake Paul has been a huge change to boxing over the last few years, and this is his biggest test yet, his biggest fight yet, against one of the biggest stars of this sport, Anthony Joshua, right now. And yeah, he could get flatlined tonight. So let's see what happens. Will AJ finally end Jake Paul? We all get to see it tonight. But thank you guys so much for listening, and peace out.